is Mr. Napolitano for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the witnesses for being here. I might add, although today's focus is on the East Coast, natural disasters, I would like to acknowledge the unprecedented hardships faced by the Western communities this year with historic storms in the past winter and tragic fires that are still addressing today. The 2017 severe winter storms in California cost $1.2 billion in damage to our state and highway system that is eligible Federal Highway Administration's disaster relief program, but DOT is sitting on $911 million in disaster relief program funding they have not obligated to the states. Plus, sufficient funding to cover $4.1 billion outstanding federal disaster obligations owed to California through the years since 1983. DOT needs to obligate the money they already have for disaster relief and needs to increase the funding to the Federal Highway Administration in disaster supplemental. Wildfires in California have been devastating in October alone. 245,000 acres have been burned. 8,800 structures have been destroyed. In the peak of the wildfires, 11,000 firefighters battled 21 major fires that forced 100,000 people to evacuate. 43 lost their lives. And on October, the president approved a major disaster declaration. Over 300 homes were burned. A whole city was devastated. According to the California Office of Emergency Services, California has $2.5 billion in outstanding federal disaster assistance funding that has not been allocated. We need to pass emergency supplemental that addresses the disaster assistance and prevention for the whole country. In going back to this, Administrator Long and General Jackson, can you discuss FEMA and Army Corps' effort to address these happenings in California?
Sure. Yes, ma'am. I personally made a visit, met with Governor Scott in California regarding the wildfires, and I got to tell you, the urban wildfire that impacted mostly Santa Rosa and Napa and Sonoma counties is one of the most disturbing events I've ever seen in my career. There are actually, the last count, and I'm sure it's grown, 6,800 destroyed homes, and the fire was apparently moving at 200 feet per second. And I'm very aware, and we are there with Californians helping them to respond and recover. When it comes to expediting funding, you know, here again, it's a partnership. In many cases, it takes 3 levels of government to make sure that the money can go down. I mean, I'm always in this balancing act, or FEMA is, of expediting funding down quickly to activate, you know, recovery, but then also staying within OIG expectations of making sure that we're utilizing taxpaying dollars. I do believe that Section 428, the pilot program within FEMA, you know, within the Stafford Act is the way to go. I do believe that we need to do more to expedite funding down, but ensure that project controls and grant monitoring and oversight training is provided at all 3 levels and upheld. It's got to be more than FEMA, making sure that the taxpaying dollars is being used correctly. And so we're with you and helping Californians recover.
The wildfires were in an area not expected, so we need to expect the unexpected.
Sure.
And I'm sure that we have need to expedite the use of agencies' ability to respond immediately due to increase the severity of the disasters. In other words, can we find a way to work together and not eliminate, but waiver some of the restrictions the agencies have on certain things? Because waiting in Puerto Rico is outstanding. It's just too long. And the people are still, some of them still don't have power. They still don't have housing. They still don't have potable water. Can there be a way to be able to get some of those things done, addressed immediately?
I would be happy to work with you on any waiver issues that you may have. I'd be happy to work with you to understand them better.
Okay. Is the energy going to be restored to modern standards instead of the 50 standards?
Ma'am, we're going to repair the system to get the power restored to the condition it was before the storm. That doesn't mean it's going to be repaired with 1950s parts. It's going to be repaired with modern parts. It's going to be repaired to current electrical code. But there's not going to be any overarching improvements to the system in terms of if a line is above ground, it's going to remain above ground. We're not going to put it below the ground.
Certainly. Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit for the record some letters from the Governor of California.
Without objection, so ordered. Thank the
Thank you,
gentlelady.
gentlemen.
And just General Jackson, I spoke to the General Simonet